I'm putting a disclaimer at the beginning about all these videos in this series, and it's not animated in the other videos, so it's not going to be animated in this video. Here's a little recap for anyone who's out of the loop. On my channel months ago, I made these recordings where I was going to be responding to people reacting to mental health TikTok. I wasn't able to put up the videos when I originally planned because I got into this whole controversy where in the midst of the controversy, I realized that I was being cyberstalked for years and how it affected my delivery in videos. So it was a life-changing moment for me, and then I have all these recordings left over of videos that I need to get to that I half finished editing in the first place. So I started working on them again to put them up. The problem is I have executive functioning issues, so I can't just re-record and do another take. You guys are going to have to deal with the fact that you're going to be listening to me from months ago talking about this stuff and then inserts from now of me talking about this stuff, and it'll be a little bit wonky, but again, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it, so it's up to you. With all that being said, I'm going to put this at the start of every video that I put out for this series so that you guys know what's going on. Let's get into whichever video it is that I'm doing today. Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about something that everyone has been talking about on YouTube since before I got back, and that is this epidemic of people faking mental disorders, particularly young women. And before I get into what I actually want to talk about specifically, I just want to go over how we got to this point today. So originally, TikTok was a music app. People quickly realized that they could use that app to have conversations with each other. They could talk about something very quickly, send it to the world, and people could respond in almost what seems to be no time at all. Uploading and rendering doesn't take that long either. Videos are limited to a minute. Some can go up to like 3 or 5, but that's only if you've been making them for a while or hit a certain point. So it made it very easy for people to communicate thoughts and ideas. What you had were people having conversations about their life, about the world around them, or things that they were doing with their life. And of course, eventually you would have people talking about serious things going on in their world because that's something that humans do all the time. So naturally, people are going to talk about mental disorders. People have done that on YouTube for a very long time as well. There was actually a big thing on YouTube of YouTubers pretending as if they had anxiety or depression, or just using it as an aesthetic and selling merch with anxiety on their shirt and things like that, capitalizing off of it.
Today we're going to be talking about someone called Liza Koshy, and you can probably tell with the title of this video that it's going to be somewhat of a criticism. But before we get into it, I'd just like to say I've got nothing personal against Liza Koshy. I'm not particularly a fan of her content, but I'm sure lots of people are. So don't expect today's video.
Just want to point out for the record, that is what I'm talking about when I say that YouTubers have to be very apologetic because they're afraid of their own viewers. It is a toxic cycle that I'm trying to point out to people that they don't realize, but he has to spend extra time excusing himself just to give his fucking opinion.
This video that's going to be somewhat of a criticism. But before we get into it, I'd just like to say I've got nothing personal against Liza Koshy. I'm not particularly a fan of her content, but I'm sure lots of people are. So don't expect today's video to be her content's so shit, but more just pointing out a few things that she's done recently which are a bit problematic. We're going to start with a video called Being an Introvert, How to Start Conversation. Essentially, the title's a bit clickbaity. It's not about introversion whatsoever. It's just one of those classic 10 types of people you meet in the street. But at the end of the video, she does a little skit about the introverted person and makes sure to say it's her right at the beginning of it.
Then you have the guy who's a bit of an introvert. Meet the shy guy. Hey, dude, hold up. Dude, wait. Long time no see.
But from these two little segments, we've established in this video that she's introverted. So I thought, with that in mind, let's take a look at her most popular video.
I dare you to bump into someone and say, stop, I have a boyfriend. Excuse me, I have a boyfriend.
Introverted.
Oh, happy day, sir.
Introverted.
I dare you to sing with headphones in. Love you.
Introverted. Now with that being said, it's clear to see that she's just played the introversion card to be relatable to her followers, because let's be honest, if you're watching YouTube, you're probably introverted. And I can't particularly call her out on this because a lot of people do it. A lot of people try to be relatable on YouTube. It's just a way to make your fans obsess about you just, a little bit more. But now you're probably wondering what my excuse for such a clickbait title was. Facing my anxiety. And this whole video is essentially another sketch about her having anxiety and having a conversation with someone. Take a look at that shirt and tell me her introversion isn't fit image.
I have anxiety. Sure, I just don't know what anxiety means, but I also have anxiety.
Now this is where it gets a little bit problematic for me. I'm not going to pretend that I'm personally offended by this because I'm just not. I couldn't be a commentary YouTuber and get offended by this. In her description she writes, I've been anxious to post this. I have social anxiety even when I talk to myself, and that's okay. And in the comment section she then claims to have both anxiety the feeling and anxiety the disorder. Let's get up a definition, shall we? This condition, which is often marked by extreme anxiety, may cause you to feel panicked about small things. They may feel embarrassed that simple tasks such as driving a car or shopping for groceries are difficult and sometimes impossible to do. Now, I'd like to reiterate, I'm not personally offended by this, but I think
I'm gonna make my point when the rest of this clip is over, but I just want to cut in to say that he literally had to excuse himself 3 times. He's like, I'm not offended, I'm not offended, I'm not offended, I'm not offended. It's like, you are kind of offended. That's why you're making the video, because you think it's offensive. It doesn't mean that you have to emotionally react, and even if you did, it wouldn't be a problem. But he has to keep explaining it because of the toxicity in our comment sections on YouTube. So I just wanted to point that out here. Let's get back to his video, and then I'll make my point.
you've got to take into account the audience that she has. You've got 2 types of people that are going to be affected by this video. The first type are teenagers that watch Liza Koshy religiously, that are probably growing up, but don't actually have any mental illnesses. I personally don't think it's very healthy to say, hey look, I've got anxiety and that's cool, that's fine, you should have anxiety too, let's all have anxiety. But the one that's more damaging are the fans of hers that actually do have anxiety or panic disorders, and they see their favourite person in the world saying they have them too, and then going out to shops and doing things that they would never do. Now put yourself in that situation. How shit would that make you feel? In her attempt to be relatable to all of her Tumblr fan base, she's probably damaging them more than she's helping them. Because sure, saying you're introverted and have anxiety probably gets you a little bit more money, a few more clicks. But when, in my opinion, you are neither of those, I think you deserve to have a video made about you.
Any single time a YouTuber sees something on TikTok that they don't like, they then say it's just a TikTok thing. And maybe it's because it's their competitor. That's a separate video for another day, but that is not the case. And of course, if YouTube could have something like that, TikTok was eventually going to have the same thing. So before that happened, you just had people saying that they had concerns with their life, that they noticed that they had these behavioral patterns. And there were actually experts who made TikToks and would talk about these issues. Some people had toxic problems where they were hurting other people, and mental health experts would talk about that too. Psychologists, therapists, you name it. But the problem is that with TikTok and social media in general, if you aren't extremely professional, in other words, very pleasant, which is very hard to do when talking about mental disorders that are affecting other people, such as disorders that include abusive behavior. If you offend people, they report those professionals and get their license taken away. There are TikToks of newbie psychologists and older psychologists where they lost their job. So that left it to where the only professionals making TikToks were people who pretty much steer clear from these topics, or if they did, they talked about it in a very general sense or a very pleasant sense, and we couldn't get to the heart of these issues. So who does that leave left to talk about these issues in a way that's natural and upfront, blunt, honest? All that you have are people who went to school and got an education but didn't make that their profession or their major. You have armchair psychologists, which are people who are at home just judging things and saying stuff. And you have people who study this information extensively, people who have read all the books and things but never went to college for it, because you don't need college to learn information on anything. You just need the access to the information. Again, that's another story for another day, but those are the only people left who could talk about these issues, because you can't take away their license. All you can do is possibly try to report their video, but if they're just sharing their opinion on a psychological ideal, then it's not breaking any rules to get them banned. And because this happened, it created an environment where people were also able to talk about their own problems. And this way, people who weren't able to have access to healthcare or to a psychologist, they were able to find comfort in people who shared an issue that was similar to their own. I'll get into more about healthcare later, but for people where they can't see a professional for whatever reason, this created a form of therapy where they could say, I'm struggling with this, am I the only one? The thing that people don't realize about therapy or seeing a psychologist or getting a diagnosis is that experts often will tell you not to self-diagnose, and so do regular people like on YouTube. But you have to self-diagnose to see a professional in the first place, because no sane person is going to just walk into a psychologist's office and say, I'm just here just because, seeing the sites, YOLO. Obviously, they have some sort of idea of what's wrong with them, and they figured that out through either playing therapist with themselves and trying to figure out what's wrong with them, or they looked up things online or saw someone talk about something and they said, that might apply to me. So the whole idea of telling people not to self-diagnose is kind of stupid, because how are you going to get help for yourself if you don't think you need help in the first place? So the point is, this was naturally always going to happen, where people would talk about their problems and try to see if anyone else thinks the same. If you see that other people aren't relating to your experience, that can give you an idea that there's something wrong with you, or that you should see a professional to try to understand this, because no one else can help you. If everyone had the same problem, would it really be a mental disorder at that point?
So after all these people came out about their mental issues, you then had people who were getting their own issues wrong. Remember that even if you get a professional diagnosis, it can still be a misdiagnosis. So if a professional can do that, then obviously someone diagnosing themselves can get it wrong. And that's when you got a bunch of people saying, I think I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that, when they don't. Some people who are saying that they have DID just have schizophrenia. I'll come back to that. So that would create a lot of confusion. And then you had people who were seeing all the attention that these people were getting all around, people who were correctly diagnosing themselves, people who had professional diagnosis and were talking about it, people who were misdiagnosing themselves and talking about it, getting a lot of attention, and they started to do it as well for various reasons. And that's how we got to where we are now, where there are so many people making these videos saying that they have these mental health issues when they don't. And then that naturally created the next wave of videos that you now see, which are a bunch of commentary channels who then decided to talk about this subject. And that's what brings me here today, is somebody who also comments on a lot of stuff and shares my opinion. I try to share opinions only when I have something unique to add, and I have not seen a single person say what I'm about to say today. So let's start with the biggest one that I've seen personally, which is people talking about young girls faking on TikTok. A lot of these YouTubers want to tell you the warning signs or their detective work on how to tell, but right off the bat, that creates an issue. Because then the question is asked, who are you to determine if these people have Tourette's or not? That or DID or whatever else. What makes you think that what you can see in these people actually proves what's wrong with them? Because are you a psychologist? Are you a therapist? Are you a psychiatrist? Have you learned anything about this? And what made me want to make this video today, I saw a video of a YouTuber showing a compilation of people while talking about people faking mental disorders. And one of the people in the compilation either legitimately has Tourette's or their Tourette's is so convincing that you don't know for sure that they don't.
Bean sprout, a bean sprout,
I've never seen this person listed as someone faking Tourette's. They've been making extensive videos on what it's like to have Tourette's, trying to inform people about their own experience developing it at a later age in their life. And so whether or not those Tourette's are fake, they have been doing nothing but helping people who have Tourette's. But the thing is, with the tics that she has, Tourette's can be contagious, and someone with Tourette's can adopt another person's tics or create a tic based off of things that they've heard a lot. So even though she has a specific phrase that she says all the time, now a lot of other people who either have Tourette's and or are faking Tourette's, they've been saying the same phrase as well. I'll show you the clip. As far as I know, the beans thing started with her, and other people started to say it as well, but like I said, Tourette's are contagious. To lump her into this compilation makes it seem as if she's faking Tourette's, but I haven't seen any videos actually debunk her as somebody without Tourette's, and not effectively either. So the reason why I'm making this video today is because I saw a video of a YouTuber showing a compilation of people displaying tics while talking about people faking mental disorders. So to lump them into that compilation creates a problem, because now we're getting to the point where people are accusing people with legitimate Tourette's of faking their Tourette's. And this is a mental disorder that's very hard for people to control. This isn't something where, oh, why are you talking about it? Why are you bringing it up? You just want attention, when this is something that's affecting their everyday life and they can't do anything about it. So to then tell them that they're faking this thing that they've been struggling with their entire life creates a whole new level of problems. So the person I'm talking about is this woman. I'll show you the compilation.
I want to talk to the kids.
I have schizophrenia!
Teens on TikTok self-diagnosing themselves with rare mental health disorders, in most cases that they don't have.
People saying like, oh, here's signs you may have this disorder. Like it was like bipolar or like borderline or all these different like rare disorders I've never even heard of before.
Biological sex is fake.
My mind like would just be like, you know, like maybe I don't have just depression and anxiety, maybe it's something else.
I want to talk to the kids.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And even if you don't have the app like me, I'm banned, but every time I go on Twitter or Instagram, someone's reposting a video of someone claiming there are 17 people living in them. They have 17 alternate personalities. There are teenage girls that have tics and have Tourette's syndrome. All of a sudden, there's just this explosion in Tourette's syndrome. How convenient. In fact, this is such a problem that doctors are reporting record numbers of teenage girls specifically coming in and claiming to have developed some sort of tic or Tourette's syndrome tendencies.
Beans. Bean sprout, a bean sprout, Beans.
And these same sentences and phrases you were saying repeated by girls across the world?
Across the world, both in Australia and in America, using similar phrases. And it was that made us think that social media was a link in what was going on.
At the same time this is happening, there are TikTokers being exposed for faking these Tourette syndrome symptoms, these tics.
Wow, 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 wow. I want to talk, wow, wow, wow. I wanted to talk a little bit about wow, wow, wow. Never mind.
And in a very twisted way, popularizing them, making them a trend, something that is a real condition, don't get me wrong, that afflicts very real people, is suddenly becoming an aesthetic online. Why is that? Doctors are also reporting record numbers of teenage girls coming in claiming to have very rare mental health conditions that don't typically appear in that demographic, in that age group. Dissociative identity disorder in particular is an extremely popular hashtag on TikTok with 2.5 billion views. How can this very obscure, very rare condition be garnering this much attention?
The thing about her video is that even though she showed it in a way where she said, here's examples of people saying that they have Tourette's, and then after she says these are examples of people who have been exposed for not having Tourette's, people who aren't paying a lot of attention might not understand that distinction because of how subtle it was. And it's in a compilation with people exposing fake Tourette's. And some of these videos show that people are copying people's Tourette's or all these other examples of how they debunk people for having fake Tourette's, that it's getting to a point where those people are going to be associated with faking Tourette's because they're in these videos. And unless you're very careful with how you showcase it and you make it very clear, people are just going to draw into it whatever they want. And it's now becoming somewhat trendy to expose these people, funnily enough. So this woman in particular, I've seen on TikTok, and she's done, as far as I know, nothing but try to help people understand how Tourette's work and showcases her different types of tics and how she feels when she's dealing with them and how it is a serious issue and it's something that she can't control. So even if she was faking it, I haven't seen any evidence of that. They're pretty realistic. But a problem is that a lot of people think that her Tourette's are fake because there's so many people on TikTok now saying beans all the time. But one thing about Tourette's is that they can adopt each other's tics. There's been a whole case of people finding people on Twitch with Tourette's and typing the N-word in the stream to try to get them to develop an N-word tic, for example, because that's how infectious or, contagious this can be. So with that being said, I'm going to get into some of these debunking videos and show you the type of stuff that they're talking about and why those aren't good parameters to showcase to the public how someone is faking. So I just want to make a point here before I move on that the reason why I'm not going to go through her video in all of this is because her video isn't really problematic. I am focusing on the fact that that woman was put in that compilation.
Bean sprout, a bean sprout.
And the fact that I have seen comments on TikTok accusing her specifically of faking Tourette's. So I want to do a video about this before we get to a point where a large number of people with real disorders are being attacked as people who are faking disorders. Because although people say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, it's paved with justification. And if people can justify bullying someone in the name of calling them out, then they're going to. And you have no idea how that's going to affect these people's mental health. And these will be issues of faking mental disorders, period. So with all that being said, that's my introduction into this series, and I'm just going to get into whichever video I want to cover first. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.